having to go to work on a rainy day. My boss is so annoying. Even my partner doesn't understand me, she's so selfish. Do these complaints sound as natural to you as breathing? Will Bowen, a social psychology researcher, points out that complaints are like bad breath, they're everywhere. When they come from someone else's mouth, we notice them, but when they come from our own, we ignore them. Complaining is like telling our subconscious, things aren't okay. My life isn't going as I want. Besides adding pressure, this does nothing to improve the situation. It only creates an echo chamber, bouncing negative emotions back to us. Will Bowen noticed that modern society is increasingly filled with complaints. So, he launched a global challenge, a 21-day habit of not complaining. This has helped over 6 million people make positive changes. He then distilled his insights into a famous book, which I've loosely translated as *A World Without Complaints. How to Stop Complaining and Start Enjoying the Life You've Always Wanted. When you read this book, you'll understand that habitual complainers often mistakenly think complaining is a form of relief. But in the end, they're buried under their own complaints. Complaining is essentially anger at our own sense of helplessness. It's a mask hiding the fear of change, a weak escape for souls lacking the courage to live. A person with a strong inner self, who lives with true clarity, stays conscious, and moves toward awakening, will never complain or blame others. As the ancients said, the strong don't blame others, the wise don't complain about themselves. However, we need to clarify that stopping complaints doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. The key is recognizing the psychological motives behind your own complaining behavior so you can truly change. When you stop complaining about yourself and others, nothing in this world can bother you anymore. As the author says, you don't need to live in a perfect world to stop complaining. By stopping complaints, you create a perfect world within your reach. Now, I invite you to listen to a sharing from Better Version titled A Great Soul Never Complains. Allow yourself to reclaim the fragrance of your soul, radiate loving energy, attract good fortune, and overflow with true happiness. People who constantly complain about difficulties can't move toward a better life. Few realize how often they complain because it's become a habit. This habit convinces you, I need to complain because it brings relief and sympathy. In the book, the author recounts a childhood story. As a chubby boy, he was often called fatso, but didn't feel offended. However, at a party, he complained to friends that he couldn't get a girl to dance with him because he was too fat. His friends stood up for him. When another kid arrived and called him fatso, a friend glared and said, "Shut up." Others chimed in, "Stop teasing him. Being fat isn't his fault." The author felt like he'd discovered a secret weapon. Gradually, he turned complaints about his weight into opportunities for attention and sympathy. Throughout his life, this continued. At work, when he didn't get better shifts, he complained that it was because he was fat, and opportunities went to others. People would say, "It's not about that, you're great." He loved hearing those words. When fined for a traffic violation, he blamed it on his weight. People mocked the police. Complaining became a mental drug, and he grew addicted. Over time, he didn't even realize he was complaining. It became his normal way of talking, as natural as breathing. In life, many people fall into a similar spiral. When you play the victim, complaining about your body, difficulties, or weaknesses, you may get temporary attention and comfort. But you also lose the chance to change. You say, "I'm too fat, nobody likes me," perhaps just to hear, "You're beautiful in your own way," while forgetting to change your lifestyle for better health. You moan, "I'm too old, I can't do anything anymore," maybe to hear, "Age is just a number," instead of using your experience and time now. Or you grumble, "I'm poor, so people look down on me," perhaps to hear friends say, "They don't deserve you," while avoiding the need to improve your finances. In truth, such complaints are a mask hiding helplessness and fear of facing an imperfect self. They paralyze you in the role of someone needing rescue instead of solving problems, bravely facing challenges, building a healthy lifestyle, developing yourself, or improving relationships. You focus on injustice and disappointment. The author calls these complaints from unconscious helplessness. Such words carry immense power in a person's mind. Complainers never want bad things to happen, but their complaints unintentionally attract more negativity. Venting may bring temporary relief, but that resentment creates a powerful negative energy field, pulling us deeper into suffering. One author said people have a tendency to prove their beliefs. Whatever you complain about, life will show you more of it. When you keep talking about bad things, using negative words, your mind is led astray, and unwanted things accumulate. Over time, life becomes unstable, trapping you in a cycle of tragedy. The greatest tragedy is using negative words to predict your own fate. The more you complain, the harder it is to find peace. A truly great soul never blames others. Besides complaining about themselves, people often complain about others. Unhappy relationships often share a common trait: one side constantly blames the other, or both complain about each other. Complaining makes relationships stagnant and worse because it blinds you to others' positive qualities, focusing only on what dissatisfies you. Once you regularly blame someone, you tend to find more reasons to complain about them. This traps you in dissatisfaction and fosters insecurity in the other person. Those constantly hearing complaints feel drained, dissatisfied, anxious, and even mentally stressed. This applies to close relationships and casual ones alike. Every day, we interact with many people, and unexpected annoyances arise. Once the complaining switch is flipped, it creates a massive butterfly effect. Ironically, even when you're aware that complaining is bad, you often can't stop. The author calls this conscious helplessness. Why can't you stop despite knowing it's harmful? There's an addictive mechanism at play. Research shows that complaining about emotional pain triggers the release of endorphins, an internal morphine that instantly relieves pain and creates euphoria. Spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle notes that everyone has an undeniable part called the pain body. This pain body thrives on bad news, conflict, and complaints, feeding and strengthening itself. Negative emotions make you uncomfortable, but they're endorphins for your pain body, exciting you. Once you complain, it's hard to stop. It's like a psychological drug you hate yet can't let go. You may not realize you're addicted to this state, like someone drinking coffee daily and forgetting its bitterness. Understanding this shows that quitting complaining isn't just changing a habit, it's breaking an emotional addiction. It only works when you recognize your pain body and start loving yourself more. To heal, stop feeding your pain body with complaints. It's also important to understand that you can't expect others to stop complaining about you immediately. For them, complaining is also addictive. They're not whole, struggling with their own pain body. Instead of demanding they change, offer love and empathy. Dr. John Gottman identifies 5 core reasons behind complaining about others, summarized by the acronym GRIP. Understanding these motives helps you let go of this habit. The first letter, G, stands for get attention. Like complaining about personal struggles, blaming others is often about seeking attention. When someone complains to you about another person, they may want your attention and sympathy, needing someone to side with them and validate their grievances as unfair. The second reason, R, is remove responsibility. This is defensive complaining. The outcome may not yet be clear, but they prepare a shield by blaming others. For example, someone complaining about the marketing team's poor performance may be setting up an excuse for their own shortcomings. Notably, Such complainers often see problems as hopeless before the end, doing nothing to change the situation and preemptively excusing their failure. As Soren Kierkegaard said, "What you really mean is, I don't want to act." Complaining to avoid responsibility stems from the word blame, meaning to become useless. This habit makes people increasingly helpless, losing problem-solving skills. The third reason, is inspire envy. Complaining about others may imply the complainer lacks that flaw, elevating themselves. For instance, saying, "My husband is so messy," may subtly boast, "I'm neat." Or criticizing, "He drives terribly," could mean, "I'm a great driver." Such complainers seek praise. Inner emptiness drives them to attack others to boost their self-worth. However, social psychology research shows this backfires. Listeners often attribute the criticized trait to the complainer. Gossiping or bad-mouthing absent people is another form of complaining to self-elevate. Gossip isn't about sharing information but highlighting others' negative traits to seem better. Gossips complain more and pull others into their views. Joining them poisons your energy. Instead, redirect attention by praising the criticized person's positive traits, helping the complainers see their own value. The fourth reason, P, is power. Power here means the more people side with you, the more influence you have. Like presidential elections, the candidate with more supporters gains power. Traditional media exemplifies this, driven by complaints. Newspapers and TV exploit sensational stories about crises, scandals, or personal tragedies because negative stories spark outrage, fueling interaction cycles. More debates mean more views, more criticism, and higher ad revenue. A 2021 Harvard study found negative news generates 3 times more engagement than positive news on social media, taking this to new levels. Algorithms amplify comparisons, showcasing others' lavish trips or career milestones, triggering primal fears like, "Why am I stuck?" To ease this anxiety, many badmouth others, refuse to acknowledge their success, or self-criticize, saying, "I'm such a failure." This creates a hypocritical cycle. You may criticize others but become a social media performer yourself, editing photos for hours to avoid judgment and seek praise. As sociologist Eric Fromm warned, chasing crowd approval makes you lose your true voice. The final reason, E, is excuse poor performance. This resembles removing responsibility but occurs after a clear outcome. People criticize others to deflect blame when they contributed to a negative result, hiding their shortcomings or protecting their image. Some may wonder, if someone does something wrong, can't I speak up? Stating facts differs from complaining due to the energy in your words. "He didn't meet the deadline" is a neutral fact. But sighing and snapping, "I can't understand why he couldn't finish in so many days," is complaining. In A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle explains that pointing out errors to help someone improve differs from complaining. Don't confuse them. Stopping complaints doesn't mean accepting poor behavior or quality. For example, asking a waiter to reheat cold soup is a neutral request. But saying, "Why did you serve me cold soup?" is complaining and blaming. Pay attention to your words. Phrases like, "Why," "How come," or "always" often signal complaints or blame. Complaining emits negative energy. Ask yourself, are my words tied to one of the 5 grip motives? You'll know if you're trapped in complaining or an emotional addiction. When you sense a complaint brewing, do these immediately. The author says, suffering leads to complaining, which leads to more suffering. It's a negative cycle. Break it by stopping complaints to enter a positive cycle. Positivity breeds happiness, which breeds more positivity. Understanding your complaining motives shifts you from unconscious and conscious helplessness to living consciously and capably, experiencing a life free from endless troubles and full of peace. To achieve this, build habits the moment you notice resentment or complaints budding. Below are methods I've gleaned from the book, combined with personal reflections, hoping they help you become a strong, complaint-free person. First, avoid polluted zones. The book says, next time you're with a group and someone starts complaining, pay attention. Complaining becomes a competitive sport. A complainer spreads resentment, polluting wherever they go. When the fire of complaints flares, others blindly join, endlessly grumbling. Such conversations seem to warm each other but create a massive emotional landfill. By avoiding these polluted zones from the start, recognizing negativity, and leaving valueless conversations, you keep your soul pure. Sometimes, silence and non-participation are the best ways. If you can't leave a negative conversation, listen as an objective observer. Instead of empathizing with their emotions, listen with clear reason. I'm just listening, not judging, agreeing, or showing off. Don't follow their complaints to please them. This invisible buffer prevents you from being swept into emotional pollution. Better yet, redirect the conversation from complaints to action with open questions like, have you tried any ways to resolve this? Or, how can I help you move forward? This helps the speaker see solutions and turns the talk from negative to creative. End with sincere encouragement. For yourself, cleanse your mind with a short meditation, a few deep breaths, soothing music, or simply gazing at a clear sky after the talk. This keeps your heart warm for listening while shedding accumulated negative energy. Listening without being poisoned is an art of balancing empathy and awareness. You offer full presence without letting others' emotions burden your soul. The most beautiful sound is silence. Lao Tzu, in the Tao Te Ching, speaks of the philosophy of great sound is silent. Literally, it means the loudest sound can't be heard. This implies that great sounds, representing the Tao or natural path, and profound values, exist quietly, humbly, not noisily. Lao Tzu suggests the most beautiful sound is silence, like nature operating silently with immense power. Wise people don't need many words, but their actions and thoughts have deep impact. In this noisy era, staying silent amid difficulties and annoyances is the best way to move forward and overcome challenges. Constant complaining reflects inner emptiness, while silence preserves vitality. When someone stops complaining and stays silent, their positive energy creates a field attracting more solutions. This is the immense power of silence. So, when facing dissatisfaction, helplessness, or fear of failure, and you feel like complaining, pause and take deep breaths. This is the best way to maintain inner silence. As Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh says, smile, breathe, and slow down. If your mind is calm, your breath is deep and long. If your mind is chaotic, your breath is shallow and rushed. Practice this now with your breath. Focus on it. Practice breathing exercises like counting breaths or deep breathing before annoyances. Remember, silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness of inner strength. May we, when facing unwanted things, not turn pain into words. Just breathe, and stay silent, creating space to release emotions. We complain endlessly because we don't know how to release emotions correctly. Many use others as emotional trash cans. One of the best ways to release negative energy is journaling. You can practice gratitude journaling. I've created a Facebook group to connect and cultivate this habit together. If you want to build this habit, join us. A strong inner self always finds things to be grateful for, even in tough, unwanted times, instead of being swept away by loss, pain, complaints, and sorrowful words. Instead of complaining to others about your problems or blaming someone, exercise, practice mindful walking in nature, read a book, or do something you love. These are simple yet profoundly wise ways. Life is full of troubles, and everyone has their own issues. A truly clear-minded person never makes things harder for themselves. The final method is to focus on solutions. As Epictetus wrote, complaining is human instinct, but true wisdom lies in stopping complaints, focusing on solving problems, and thinking about other things. Complaining attracts more complaints, but replacing it with solution-focused thinking makes the world entirely different. Use tolerance instead of blame, trust instead of doubt, gratitude instead of calculation. Then, the best solutions will appear. When you plant flowers and grass on a pile of rubble, the world will return a sincere smile. Rebirth your life with the purple hue of hope. The author launched an inspiring 21-day no-complaining challenge, symbolized by a purple wristband, a simple yet powerful tool to rebirth your life with hope's purple hue. Here's how: wear a purple wristband or rubber band on your wrist. If you catch yourself complaining, switch it to the other wrist. Each complaint means switching the band, resetting your count to 0. If you maintain 21 days without switching, the challenge is successful. When popularized, this attracted 6 million participants, millions shedding their resentful shells, stepping into new energy fields. As the author affirms, the power each person creates for their life is boundless, far beyond imagination. Without the noise of complaints, the world becomes peaceful, unleashing its infinite strength. If you're ready, challenge yourself with the 21-day no-complaining habit. Each deep breath replaces resentment, each smile replaces a sigh. I'm certain that after 3 weeks, you'll see a completely new version of yourself. Thank you for listening. If this video was helpful, share it with those who need it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the latest videos every week. Once again, thank you, and see you in the next videos.